coming to celebrate our website completion. Hi, I am Natsumi Hayashi, a visiting instructor of Japanese who organized this program. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the launch event of our website for the Japanese American History in Chicago Summer Immersion Program. This project has been a remarkable journey of discovery, learning, and collaboration, bringing together a diverse group of students and community members to explore the rich history of Japanese Americans in Chicago. I'm incredibly proud of our participants, Nicole, Rupanai, Kengo, Gennosuke, and Mai, whose dedication and hard work have culminated in this digital archive. This website is not only a testament to their academic and digital skills, but also a significant contribution to preserving and sharing the stories of the Japanese American community in Chicago. Our program's success wouldn't have been possible without the invaluable support of the Japanese American community experts and our chaperone Erin Newton and Jennifer Andrea. I am grateful for their guidance and collaboration throughout this journey. Please take a moment to explore the website and join us in celebrating this achievement. After the introduction, you can talk with the participants and share their insights. Please feel free to speak with them. Drinks and Japanese snacks are available. Please feel free to enjoy them. Thank you for being here and supporting our efforts to bring history to life through digital storytelling. This is the website. You can see the website from the laptop, but you can scan this QR code to direct access to the website. Yeah. Okay, I will show it later. Okay. And I presented about the website and the program at the conference. I also received a letter from Mr. Shibata, the director of the Japan Information Center at the Consul General of Japan in Chicago, who attended the conference that I presented. It's very honored. So, yeah, Rupana, can you read?
I'll read the letter for you guys.
Yes.
I was reading it earlier. Congratulations on the completion of Japanese American history in Chicago and the launch of the website. We greatly appreciate the efforts of Hayashi Sensei and all students who worked on this project. Special thanks to the academic institutions, members of the Japanese American community, professionals, and volunteers who supported the project in recognition of the significance of studying the history and culture of minorities. This project is titled "With a History of Japanese Americans in Chicago," but it also touches on the major historical background and events in U.S.-Japan relations that are necessary to understand it, such as the Iwakura Mission, Japan's participation in the Columbus World's Fair, and the Chicago-Osaka Sister City Friendship. It also provides a deeper understanding of the history of the Japanese American community in Chicago by centering the voices of Japanese Americans and by visiting various institutions in the community. We appreciate all your tremendous efforts. The Japanese government attaches great importance to its ties with Japanese Americans. In April of this year, Prime Minister Kishida visited the National Cenotaph for Japanese Americans in Washington, D.C. and planted a Somei Yoshino cherry tree in the hope that the history of Japanese Americans will be passed on to future generations. I hope that the website launched by all of you will contribute to the further development of friendship and trust between the United States and Japan by advancing the understanding of the history of Japanese Americans in Chicago, just as the cherry tree planted in Washington has done. Once again, thank you for your hard work and for making the findings of the project public and accessible. Director, Japan Information Center, Consulate General of Japan, Chicago.
Yeah, it's very honored. And so now we move on to the introduction from the participant. So Nicole.
So hi, my name is Nicole Ruby. I am a rising junior this year, and I am double majoring in Asian Studies and Education with a licensure.
Can you give any kind of feedback from the program?
So I originally joined this program because it was part of my major as an Asian Studies major, but I was also really interested in Japanese and Asian American history overall, in like major cities in Chicago especially. So when I joined this program, I was really excited to just learn and be part of that like cultivation of research and information. And coming out of this project, I've been more passionate about my research in Asian Americans around the U.S.
Thank you. So next, Kengo.
Hi, my name is Kengo. I'm from Japan and I'm sophomore. My major is theater. And my part is holidays and policies of to Midwestern University during World War II. So I researched about how the relationship between U.S. and Japan begins. In Chicago, also, I compare how university treated with Japanese American in Midwest. And the reason why I research about the policies because when I visited the University of Illinois for the exhibition, I was kind of surprised because university also didn't know how to like what they should do. So they send each other letters and like they ask, what's going on, and then it's so interesting. And then I also searched the Knox College, and then I compare how different the university like treated with Japanese Americans. So yeah, thank you.
My name is Upanai and I am a rising senior now. My major is biology. My major is biology and my minor is economics, which is not related to the program that I did at all. But then I guess this program helped me to realize and learn about myself more as well in terms of what I enjoy. I do enjoy my major and minor, but I found out that I also enjoy history throughout this program, and I really enjoyed this program. For this project specifically, Gen and I, we focused on religion and beliefs of Japanese American people during the World War II, during the times before the war, and then after how the religion or how people's beliefs shifted throughout the whole events that happened. And I'll be presenting that with again a bit later.
Oh, okay. So yeah. After the program ended last summer, they started their study abroad. So Genosuke is still in London. And my completed her study abroad. So where she
China.
first China and then my second place.
Denmark, yes.
Denmark, yes.
China and Denmark.
Yeah, so she completed 2 places on her study abroad, and she just came back to Japan now.
Japan.
So
Yes, exactly.
very diverse. So okay, okay, Mai, can you give your introduction?
Okay. Hello everyone. I am Mai Hasegawa. I am currently in Osaka, Japan. I was born and raised in Osaka, Japan. Yes. For this website, I did the part of the timeline and preservation of history. Yes. Overall, I also really enjoyed being on this program because I feel like before this program, even though I'm a Japanese person, I feel like I'm ashamed about it, but I had no idea of like how like Japanese Americans, I guess like survived through these like difficult moments, especially like during World War II, and then how like they built their own community in the States, especially like in Chicago or like in this like Illinois area, and like getting to know about those like strong bones of Japanese Americans in the state was very like inspiring for me, and yeah, and I just like enjoyed like learning about the history of these like Japanese Americans with like these amazing members. So yeah, I'm very grateful about this experience. Thank you so much.
Hi, so my name is Gen. I'm currently a junior, rising senior next year. My major is economics. I'm double minoring in computer science and philosophy. And as you might not be able to kind of like presume where I'm studying, so I'm studying abroad in London. For this summer project, I worked on Leaf's page along with my teammate online. I also worked on creating the interactive map you can find in the website, including the places we visited during the field work, and also that purple banner that our website has. So yeah, it was a pleasure for me to contribute to work on preserving the history that Japanese Americans, especially around the Chicago area, in the summer project. So as Maya had mentioned, it was also first time for me to learn about Japanese American history and incarceration in detail. So hearing these stories from people from Japanese American community or people from the academic institution was a really great opportunity and experience for me to learn about the history of hardships that people like have experienced, Japanese Americans have experienced. So yeah.
Here we go. You guys go first. Got it? Here we go, right here, everybody. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Terminology. As we were researching, we talked to a lot of people, and we realized how much words matter. So, for example, one of the biggest examples was Japanese American versus Japanese hyphen American. We talked about how having that hyphen sort of implies the idea that someone is not purely 100% of an identity, or just like overpowers the fact that yes, this person is of a different ethnicity, but eventually they are American and they're therefore Americanized to a certain degree. Whereas Japanese American or Asian American without the hyphen would be like acknowledging both of their dual identities. So with all of these terminologies, most of these are either definitions, for example, what non-alien means versus when you're looking at government documents, versus calling it an incarceration camp versus an internment camp. So you realize how, again, it is important to have respectful language, and so a lot of the terminology here we prefer to use the second definition or the second phrase.
I've been following some debates on sort of the internment camps in particular, and I've also heard some people argue that concentration camp was the right word. Is that something that you all ran into? And is that how did you handle that particular?
So a lot of people that we talked to preferred the word internment camp just because, for one, if I'm not correct, incarceration means to be imprisoned and to be held against because they did a crime.
Yeah.
Or, versus internment, they weren't actually doing anything wrong, like legally wise. It was more of the government enforcing certain policies and rules against Japanese Americans. So we say internment camp just because it's more respectful and again, dilutes the implication that Japanese Americans are quote unquote committing a crime, which they weren't. Versus if we used incarceration camps, that would imply that them being Japanese American is simply what is quote unquote a crime for them based on the US government. And then for concentration camps, we had a similar conversation. We didn't get too much deep into it because again, it is more of a sensitive topic when it comes to events such as the Holocaust, and it is a very different event and part of history that happened versus what happened to the Japanese Americans in the internment camps.
Thank you.
We'll be moving on to the timeline now.
Oh. I'm a historian, so the timeline is my jam.
If Maya wants to talk about it.
You can make it a bit bigger.
Do you want to make it bigger? Is that?
Like, yeah, maybe not. No. Yeah, you can't really make it bigger. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I made this Japanese American history timeline. So I just like based on my research, I compiled all the major, I guess, like history events of major history events that are related to Japanese American history in Japan and in the States. So yeah, this timeline started with when Japan opens up the country, and that's because like when the relationship between Japan and the United States started. So starting from that, just like with over the important dates. Yeah, in Japanese American history.
Is there? What's your like? What date was like the most important you felt like to include? Like what were the highlights of the timeline for you?
Let me see. Well, I'm also like looking at the timeline right now. Scroll down.
I'm trying to go slow. I hope I'm going slow enough.
Oh, yeah, thank you. MC.
Well, I'll ask maybe a different question.
Okay.
How did you think about, like, because you've got a lot of like diplomatic events here, and then especially once we get close to World War I, there are a lot of things that technically aren't happening in the U.S., right? Like they are kind of international events, like the invasion of Manchuria is kind of what made me think of this. So when you were kind of like, so what made you decide to include those more international things in your timeline?
I thought it was like of course the events that happen like in Japan or like in the US or like between those countries are very important, but at the same time, of course, these like international events are like pretty important for Japanese history, and then that eventually affects the whole. Like everything's just connected. So it's just like for like context, I feel like it's not really like not like a problem, but like it's not really appropriate for me to just like exclude those like events from just because like this timeline is about like Japanese American history. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, Nico need to leave early.
Yes.
Oh,
Where should I go?
Then,
I can do it.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think so.
Thank you.
Since I have to leave quickly, I'll just go over a brief introduction of my part. I talked about resettlement to community. So after they came out of these internment camps and going back, integrating themselves back into Chicago, or even from the beginning when they first started moving to Chicago, that Midwest area. So these 4 sections here, I talk about neighborhoods. So it was just the movement along Chicago as they moved more up north, I believe, and sort of left certain areas and certain parts. For example, Clark Division was a really big part, but it's now changed and it's become a more modernized area of Chicago. With generations, I talk about how the different generations of Japanese Americans treated Chicago and again their neighborhood and how they sort of treated the neighborhood. With with same with religious communities. I just talked a brief bit about it, but Gannon and Open I have a better understanding of it. And this last part I included real quick was called 13 Culture Kids, which isn't necessarily a part of resettlement community, but I found was a really big part of being Asian American and being Japanese American, because these people, as they grow older, have in their experience have grown more and more detached from their Japanese experience because they're not living in Japan anymore. But at the same time, they felt as though they weren't truly American, and so they created this third culture where they were Japanese American and could have both cultures intermixed into one. And with that, I have to go to class. Thank you.
So maybe group night?
Or me.
You wanna go?
What?
If you tell me where to go, I
Okay.
can.
So for this part, I focus on the government events. So we met the researcher Takako Days. She told us that Iwakura mission was the first arrival of Japanese. Before Iwakura mission, there was a guy who visited the Chicago area, but I just focus on the government events stuff. And can you go Iwakura mission? So Iwakura mission was a project which the Japanese government sent many people to America and Europe. They tried to change the treaty, but they realized, oh, we can't do that because of the difference of power. So they just focus on the culture stuff and technology in the U.S. and Europe, but when they arrived in Chicago, there was the Great Fire was just happened, so they were kind of surprised, and then they decided to donate the money. So this event was very important for the relationship between Chicago and Japan, and yeah, this was the first time of Japanese government mission to visit Chicago, so it's very big event for them. And what I was surprised, they passed Gettysburg.
Oh.
Yeah, by train. So this is a documentation, record of the travel. So they wrote, the pronunciation is wrong, not Gettysburg, Gettysburg, kind of like that.
Yeah.
But they wrote about Gettysburg, and I was surprised because I learned about Iwakura mission in elementary school, junior high school, and high school,
Yeah.
and then wait, they passed the Gettysburg, and I'm in the Gettysburg now, so I was so surprised. That's why I decided to put this document here, and then Natsumi Sensei recommended to do that. So yeah.
Did they spell Galesburg with ateji, kanji characters? Kana. Interesting.
I think maybe they couldn't, write proper, appropriate, correct pronunciation. That's why it's kind of, different.
Yeah. The reason I ask is I study treaty courts, and they use all sorts of different kanji characters to approximate the sounds of country names.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if they were doing the same thing at Galesburg, but it sounds like maybe not.
Yes. Oh, so I couldn't research well, but so when they visited, they noticed about the system of water system, how they use,
The water
yeah,
works.
water stuff. So water supply stuff. So yeah, they maybe adopted the system into Japan, Japanese system. So yeah. And next page is about World Columbian Exposition. Okay, the picture is Borden, which comes from the Borden and
Belgium?
Borden in Kyoto, and because of the fire and like I think boys not attack like because of the fire, whatever. Because of the fire, the whole thing was collapsed. But they Osaka and Chicago's are sister cities, so Osaka also donated for rebuild parks and stuff. So now we actually went to the park and then we enjoyed the Japanese gardens. Yeah.
Do you know my favorite story about this temple? The World Chicago Exposition is set, that park, you remember the park, right? It's at the end of the Midway, that long sort of stretch of green road. That was originally for the Chicago Columbian Exposition, where the sort of March of Civilization section was supposed to be, where it went in that very colonialist sort of racist way from Africa to Europe. And the Japanese government saw where they were going to be put in that March of Civilizations. They're like, absolutely not. We're going to bribe Chicago to actually set up this separate area in this park to kind of combat that, so that they're kind of that position, that kind of colonialist thinking. I just lived next there for a number of years, and that's my favorite story about it.
Oh, also, the Japanese government sent a lot of arts stuff, and it's 1,300. Wait. 50 tons.
Oh, yeah.
And they could not no longer be displayed, so they asked extension of the prices. And you know the architecture. Wait, I forgot his name. Wait, it's gonna. I forgot his name. No, Frank Lloyd was fascinated about the Japanese art, and he visited this Colombian exhibition. So maybe he might be inspired by these arts and contributed to his architecture. Yeah. Yes, that's my part.
You don't need to mention about the another part.
Or my this part? Okay, let's go. So this part is I compared the university policy during World War II, and when I visited the University of Illinois, they exhibit a lot of letters, like from university in Midwest, and I can tell, like they didn't know, what they should do for Japanese Americans, and so they ask each other, what are you doing for them, and then so it's interesting. It's really interesting. So that's why I decided to create this page. And for University of Chicago, they have a strong relationship before the war because of the baseball team. They send the players on each other, and the Waseda University is kind of sister and brother universities, and Waseda's university color comes from the University of Chicago, so they have a strong relationship, and but because of the World War II, they have to stop the application from Japanese Americans, and one of the reasons is the mission of the bomb,
the nuclear
bomb.
yeah.
So yeah, that's also one of the reasons. Another reason is they use the campus for the military, training. So they couldn't allow Japanese America to enter the campus. Yeah. And next is or I think my is like
oh yeah, that's like closer
yeah.
view of the
So Natsumi Sensei found some articles and Knox College archives. So I researched about John Nishiyama. He was in the Occidental College, in West Coast, and of course he's a Japanese American, so he have to move to another university. So Knox College was one of the options for him. The president of Occidental College was so passionate, not passionate, I don't know how to say, so like kind for Japanese Americans, and they did great effort to send students to university in Chicago area. So they sent a lot of recommendation letters. Also, can you go? Also Knox College was welcome, and so Knox College sent him a kind of college catalog for him, and the application started for him, and then they showed like sympathy. They say personal sympathy, and so I think this was interesting because University of Chicago and Knox College are located in the same area, Illinois area, but university treated Japanese American differently. And yeah. Okay, for the first letter, newspaper. So when Japanese government attacked on Pearl Harbor, they have to show their loyalty. We are the Japanese American, but we have a lawyer to the U.S. So they wrote the article in the student newspaper. So like this. So we use it with the since we and that's kind of sad because they just spend time with friends, and just college like me, and then once Japanese attack Pearl Harbor, oh my god, I have to show loyalty, and they're kind of eager to show their appreciation this way. So this is my research here. And now I just submitted the application of theater, which is about I'm trying to direct the performance next fall, and it's under process, so I'm not sure I can do that. But the story is about Gordon Hirabayashi, who was also a Japanese American student, and he have to move, and he have to go to a camp, but he rejected the order. So he was incarcerated, but he fought for Japanese Americans, and so if I was accepted, maybe I can show the performance next fall.
Do you think that's a legacy of this summer project a little bit?
Also, when I was taking acting class last term, and the professor showed me the script. This is for Asia, because character is Asia. So in acting, play character. So this is for Asia. Thank you. This is my part.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Ken, do you want to do our part?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Well, I can probably briefly talk about what we have done
Okay.
in our part first. So basically, Open and I was working on researching and curating information about the various beliefs and religions, especially in this online archive, we have focused on two beliefs: Buddhism, Christianity. So even during the era of incarceration, Japanese Americans are trying to like practice their beliefs and maintain their religious community through like many reconciliations. So, should we move on to like Buddhism part first, maybe? Yeah. So basically, during our field work or field trip or to 1 week stay in Chicago, we have visited two Buddhist temples in Chicago area. One is Midwest Buddhist Temple, and another one is Buddhist Temple of Chicago. So I think we could just talk it briefly, but I think probably like the most stark difference of we can see from Japanese like conventional Japanese temple versus these temples in the U.S. is probably like the structure of this main hall. So probably you can notice some I think what is named like the benches. I think it is named queues or something. In ordinary Japanese temple, you'll see like a tile of made by like a plant fabric called tatami. But here you can see like chairs placed on it with what's it called?
The service books over here.
Yeah, service books,
And like
which including many going if you want. But
and I guess
would
like
elaborate on that? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Like for
Right,
the
right.
service books and like the benches that he was talking, so because of like the incarceration and like during the World War, there was like a lot of racism toward Japanese people, and because of that, like to fit into the community, some of the Japanese American people were forced, due to the events happening around them, they were forced to change from like Buddhism to Christianity, and like the Americanization of like these temples, like, using benches and like having those even books. Those books, like I guess for actual Buddhism religion, like they don't have the service books, and then these books were first created like in the US during those incarcerations, like in those camps, to just like make people feel welcomed to those like services that they had in those camps, and that's where these songs come from, and like those songs also. I think we found some research, or I think the Reverend was himself talking about those books, that like the songs, they also sound like the songs that are usually played in like church services. Yeah.
Interesting.
They're based on the Christian hymns.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the contents are Buddhist, but the songs itself are like the melodies are Christian style.
Oh, huh.
It's more like and also they have with like a song and piano.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and like before, those are supposed to be called temples, but then apparently, like again, because they had to fit into the community. When this Midwest Buddhist temple was created for the first time, it used to be called church back then, to just I guess not make people be like racist towards them.
Yeah.
And then only in 1971 they decided to rename it to temple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was the recent change. I think for this particular,
Yeah.
this is like us listening to stories from the Reverend. Do you have anything else to add to this temple? Again,
Also, yeah, probably, yeah, I think you already mentioned that we have to like explain about the section. Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah,
yeah.
we can move on.
And this is actually the second some people they still had the need to like practice their religion in camps. They used to like for certain things that they needed, like items that they were supposed to have, they had to like rechange and use something that was available in camps. Like for the cherry flowers, they used bead-colored toilet papers to represent that. For like sweet tea, they used sweet coffee, and there was something else I don't remember. But then for like Buddha's birthday celebrations, when they were supposed to have the altars, they make the altars from bread wrappers and then can labels. So that's how they like had to survive. Also, in this church, there is this altar. Can I go back? I think it's this one. I don't think it's this one, but we have a picture.
Yeah, we have to move on to the next page.
Oh, this
This one,
one.
this one.
So this altar was built during the incarceration in the camp itself by people who were still trying to keep their religion to themselves and like practice it.
Wow.
So this altar has been preserved in Buddhist temple
Wow.
in Chicago. It's still there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like in a separate room in the
They
temple.
made this in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Intricate. That's incredible.
Yeah. So we can move on to other pages. I guess like we didn't cover most of this part as well, how Buddhism had to be Americanized to just for the people fitted into the community. Do you have anything else to add to this part? Oh, this is like more same pictures. I'll let you do this part.
Move on. Well, yeah, so after we have visited the Buddhist temples, we also visited the Christian churches operated by Japanese. Well, it was originally started by the Japanese American communities, which is the Lakeside Church. We had actually, in the temple, where like we're able to ask like these experiences from the reverend or the actual person who have like experienced incarceration. But here we're able to also interact with the church community of Japanese American people in Lakeside Church. Like we were like talking, we were able to hear a lot of stories that their parents' generation or even their have experienced as like Japanese Americans. And yeah. But isn't this part we have like maybe wrote it, but I can probably just explain briefly about this Lakeside Church is the page before that.
Oh, you want me to go back? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I can probably mention it by like the stained glass thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this one. So the Lakeside Church we visited was the second version of the temple, or the second, or at least a renewed version of the temple. So yeah, after a long time, they have to
There's a remote thing.
relocate What is happening?
It was a TV thing with the ablation lamp. It's all good. We're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this really big stained glass is not actually from this building, but from the old Lakeside Church, was like actually placed in like the top of the large church.
Oh wow.
So it is not just like since like the church was first abandoned, but then the community of Japanese Americans gathered and tried to restore from like the ruins of the church into like actually working church. So it has really strong meanings for them, as like it's almost a work as like a symbol for them to kind of as like being like a member of the church, like the community as a community, church community. So it's kind of
Cool.
so
It's great that
we
they-
had a chance to see old clips of their churches, and that this big stained glass was on like the original church. It was kind of like, how do I say, people like the history of what the Japanese community, American community of like the church have like experienced.
I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the preserved altar in a sense of like communities trying to preserve these parts of their history, build community around these parts of their history. That's both very powerful symbols of that.
Like that, how to say, this thing has like meaning beyond like just being like a mere stained glass or being like an altar, but it carries like the emotions and like the history and the experience that, or the hardships that they have experienced. So yeah, so like we're
So maybe you can mention a little bit about how the people in the church enthusiastically,
yeah,
you know.
we went to
Yeah.
Lakeside Church. It was, the people there were so sweet and nice. Like we entered there, it felt very homey. There was a lot of like old people who made a lot of homemade food for us. It was like
wow.
a couple of tables full of food, and I still remember after eating so much for like 1.5 hours, they still had like leftover food,
Oh,
and then
wow.
they packed a lot of food for us to go to. I remember we had like
Oh,
4 or
wow.
5 bowls of like rice, different types of like food,
Oh, yes.
and we had it for dinner later.
Wow.
Yeah,
Actually,
but-
I do remember Aaron Newton is a friend of mine. I do remember Aaron telling me about that dinner.
Yeah, and then they were just like very friendly and welcoming. They were, yeah,
Oh,
I loved
that's
it.
great,
I
yeah.
loved it, yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think it's also like in terms of Japanese people practicing Christianity in camps. It was like certainly easier for them to practice. I would personally say that. And like relating it to the community of Japanese American people, they were always welcome. Like people who practiced Buddhism, they were always welcome in Christian services. I would say they would have in camps, and like they would always, even like people who practice Buddhism, they themselves would feel welcome to go there and like not like as practice Christianity, but like sing songs with them and sing songs with them and like have fun with them. So that part I think I liked a lot.
So I have one question, and that's that in that like I mean I think these kind of Buddhist and Christian communities that seem to have been very powerful, but not, one of the things you might expect to find would be Shinto, right? Was it the stigma attached to sort of state Shintoism in World War II that you think kept communities from being formed around Shintoism in general, or is it just that these were the ones that you kind of were able to meet with and talk to?
I am not sure. I think because like we
that's a great
decided
question.
to focus on like Buddhism and Christianity. I think we did a lot of research on that. But I don't think I personally saw anything else except Buddhism and Christianity, unless Gen remembers something about it.
Well, personally, I don't really remember also about like talking especially about the Shintoist tradition especially in the U.S. because correct me if I'm wrong, especially Natsumi says, I think before World War II, I think Shinto and Buddhist are considered and kind of like worshipped by the Japanese people in kind of like similar way. Like, for instance, there is a Buddhist temple within the Shinto shrine or vice versa, having like a small shrine in the Buddhist temple. But then I think during that World War II, that thing kind of like started to change, and Shinto as like a completely different thing, as worked as like a propaganda for Japanese nationalists. So I don't know, especially like when that kind of transition has happened in Japan, and to what extent Japanese American communities, first when they immigrated from Japan to the US, carried on that tradition. But assuming that even the Buddhist tradition has kind of considered as kind of hostile, and they had Japanese American community had to kind of like reconcile, like for example, as Opanai mentioned, changing the terminology, changing the way of practicing the tradition. I think they have probably more had to like suppress that the beliefs more probably perhaps more significantly than Buddhist. That's as far as like
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like that. Because I mean, I have a friend who's a medievalist, specializes in Japanese medieval history, and one of her things that she's most annoyed about sometimes is that people consider Shinto and Buddhism to be separate way back in history, when in fact they were quite combined. It's the Meiji period where we start to see kind of moves of associating the state with Shinto in that sort of way. But I think, I was just curious if you run into any sort of, that wasn't part of any of these communities' histories, is kind of leaving that behind. But it sounds like it wasn't, so. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I think if you trace this Hinduism, I think you find most of them in the area that Japanese military occupied. So I don't know much about the history of Hinduism in the U.S.
Yeah, I don't either.
But it's maybe very good question, so maybe we can.
No. You did enough. This was allowed, and this is enough. I was just curious if you ran into it.
One thing I can try is if there's any kind of like accounts for Shintoism and like American Sutra that we kind of like use as a secondary source to explore about. But as far as I remember, probably the author might have included some accounts on Shintoism.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know enough at all, like you said, about the history of it in the U.S. to say anything authoritative. But I don't know. It's an interesting sort of legacy.
Okay, that's all.
So it's not about religion, but I met a woman who was a picture bride.
Oh,
And
wow.
then she talked me about how she met her husband. She went to the church in Japan, and a guy who was walking in the church introduced a man in the U.S. And then she decided to move to America. So she explained me how the community helped her, and
Yeah, I'm
so
sure.
not only for Japanese American raised in the U.S. but also picture bride who was born and raised in Japan was they help them as a community. So so community and churches have an important role at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting.
Okay, so that's all about so thank you so much again. Get your scan mic. From our place. So we wrap up the event, but I really appreciate everyone.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this. As a Japanese historian, I really enjoy seeing the work that you've done. I lived in Chicago for about 10 years, so I'm also very connected to the city. So this was very cool for me, and I know, so thank you for just talking with me about this.
Thank you for coming, because we wouldn't have.
Well, but the work that you put in is pretty impressive. So.
It's really amazing work. You should all be very proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a very impressive website you've all put together.
じゃあ、おやすみなさい。